Shortcrust is great. Sweet Flan, essential. But cheesy pastry, oh, that's where things get really delicious. I'm going to show you all three. I'll show you how simple they are and the hacks. I promise, no soggy bottoms. All right, guys, welcome back. Here we are looking at pastry. Why? Because I have done pastry before in a couple of the videos you may have seen when I did pumpkin pie, mince pies, two really good ones to go and check out. But I thought it would be good to do one where I just cover the basics. In fact, that's what I'm doing. This kind of mini series is cooking basics. I'm going to make a playlist of that, so check that out. Basics of pastry, because these three doughs are the ones that I do the most of, and they're just essential ones to know. What I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the classic short crust pastry and how to do that, and then I'm going to show you these two other variations, but watch till the end because there'll be some key points throughout and some good little hacks that are useful to know. All right, let's get to it. So first thing, I want to talk about the flour. Here's the thing, guys. I'm going on roughly a 250 grams of flour base. It's roughly two pastry cases, or if you were doing a pie, you'd have enough for the base, and you'd have enough for the top. Or if you just want to use half, and then the rest you can keep in the fridge, or even it freezes really, really well. 250 grams, as you may know already, that's about 2 cups of flour. But here's the thing, when it comes to baking, check this out, guys. This is 1 cup of flour, okay? This is also 1 cup of flour. But look at that. It's almost 25% more in weight. It's the same cup, it's the same scales, it's even from the same packet of flour. That's why when it comes to baking, if you want to get guaranteed the right results, then weigh your ingredients. You're just less likely to have an issue later on. Okay, what else do we need for this basic short crust pastry? We're going to need 125 grams of butter, half a teaspoon of salt, and then the final thing is just some ice cold water. Okay, so for this first bit, you want to have really clean hands. Then what I've done is I've put the mixing bowl in the fridge. Weird. And the butter has also come straight from the fridge. I cut it up earlier into really small cubes because this will help in this first stage. Now, some people use a pastry cutter thing. I've never seen the need, personally. I don't think, they say, oh, you know, you keep your fingers out of it and it means that it doesn't warm the pastry. It's true, some people do have very warm hands, but I'm going to show you the way of doing it, and it shouldn't matter that you've got warm hands. So you just simply put the ingredients into the bowl and you squeeze these lumps between the tips of your fingers like that, okay? We're going to do that until there are no more big lumps. We don't want the mixture to get up into the palms of your hands because that's where your hands are the most warm. The tips of your fingers generally aren't too warm. So just do that. Okay, now I've got rid of all those big lumps. Now for short crust, we need to keep going. Some pastries require you to stop at that stage if you're doing something that's a bit more flaky. But short crust, we keep going. And what we're going to do is we're going to take up a little bit of flour here between your fingers. Again, we're not going into the palms, and we're just going to work it like that between our fingers. What we're after is a kind of what's called a breadcrumb consistency. You'll see there won't be any big lumps left, but there also won't be any fine flour left. It'll be somewhere in between. You're keeping your fingers light. Okay, that's brilliant. Right, now let's get these hands out of the way. Now I recommend at this stage you grab either a spatula or a fork, and then you want to have a tablespoon. We've got our ice water just here, and we're going to put in water 1 tablespoon at a time. Just sprinkle it around like that, and then with your spatula just loop it around. We'll see it'll begin to transform before our eyes. Right, another one. We're trying to hydrate it, but in an even way. Okay, won't be long now. This is number 4, so I think I'm probably almost there. Let's have a feel. Oh, it feels different. It feels heavier. It's much more like a kind of crumble mixture now at this stage. And does it hold? It does hold. So you see when we squeeze it, that's pastry. What we can do is you tip it out onto the worktop. And all we're going to do is we are just going to give it a very small knead. So bring it together like that. If we just left it like that, and then when we come to roll it out, it's going to really crack up. But we also don't want to overwork the dough. So what you do here is you just take the top bit of your palm, squeeze it down, 1, 2, 3, just like that. And that's it. We're not going to work it any more than that, because we don't want that gluten to be worked over too much. Right. Then just get it into a ball. And then what I suggest is if you just press it down a little bit, you don't have to use a rolling pin, just to create a little bit of a disc. Okay, then you want to grab a piece of cling film and just wrap that fairly tightly. You want to keep any air from getting in. And then this needs to rest in the fridge for at least half an hour, but ideally an hour or even overnight. And you see how easy that is? That's going to be really good pastry. And it's just got 2 ingredients plus a little bit of water. Oh, and a bit of salt as well. So let's now have a look at a sweet variation that I like using a lot if I'm making something like a strawberry tart. All right, so let's take a look at the ingredients. Working on the same 250 grams of flour, plain all-purpose flour, the same 125 grams of butter. We're putting 50 grams of icing sugar, and then instead of the water, we've got 2 egg yolks and 2 tablespoons of cold milk. So you see here, it's the same base, the same ratio of butter to flour, but with these extra ingredients, egg yolks, sugar and milk, it's just going to lift it and make it into a richer dough. So it'll be a bit more like a biscuit or something like that you might get, a bit of shortbread. Are we going to make it in the same way? Well, yes and no. I'm going to use a food processor. Now, I say yes and no because this recipe is actually the same. You can make it in the same way as we made the short crust before. But the thing is, you can make the short crust in the same way that I'm going to show you with a mixer. And I'll be honest, guys, most of the time, this is what I do because it's just easier, it's quicker, and the benefit of using a food processor is that you're not handling the ingredients with your warm hands. And so you're less likely to overheat the dough. So first thing we're going to do is, just as before, we turn this into breadcrumbs. So you see that? There's still small little lumps. It's not super over processed, but we just have that breadcrumb consistency there. Ground almonds is another good one. Now at this point, if you were making the standard short crust, you could put your salt in, and I am going to put a pinch of salt in, even though it wasn't on the ingredients, because even in sweet things, a pinch of salt just lifts the flavor a little bit. And then here I'm going to put in this icing sugar. Now you could use any type of sugar in this really. Sometimes I like to put brown sugar and it gives it a little bit of a caramel flavor. So whisk that a bit more. Right. And then in goes the egg yolks. Now this is the stage we don't want to overwork the dough. A short burst is good. And then in goes the 2 tablespoons of milk. Guys, do you see how that has just suddenly changed? When you hold it, you can squeeze it. It's already taken on that dough consistency. Now, at this point, I don't want to work it in the mixer any more than that. All right, so we can take it out, and I'm actually going to put it onto the work surface. And this last bit, we want to do by hand. So we're going to gently push it together. And you see how sometimes there's a bit of crumbs there. We don't want that, so I'm going to mix that up. We're not really kneading. We just want it to be a uniform mix without any dry spots. Okay, now same with the other one. You can form it into a disc. Now, if you know that you're going to use this for 2 cases, sometimes I just use half, in which case you can just cut it in half and make two discs. But the point is, just like with the short crust, this is going to go into the fridge to rest for about an hour. So same deal, in some cling film and tightly wrapped. And now onto the moment that some of you have all been waiting for, the cheesy pastry. Okay, so ingredients wise, we've got the same 250 grams of flour, but it's not the same with the butter. It's only 75 grams of butter. Then we've got 75 grams of cheese. I'm using 2 types of cheddar, so red Leicester and normal cheddar, 1 egg yolk, half a teaspoon of salt, and our ice cold water. So what's the deal here, guys? We've got not the same amount of butter. Well, here's the thing. Cheese is a source of fat. And so because of that, we don't need as much butter as in the other standard short crust pastry. We've still got a good ratio. It's actually more than half. 75. It's 150, not 125. So, right, same deal. Flour goes in here, and it's the same thing going on. Butter and half a teaspoon of salt. And good. And then I'm going to put the cheese in. Just short bursts from here on out. We still want to keep those big bits of cheese that will melt into the pastry. Then the egg yolk. And then water. Same as before, we're going to do 1 tablespoon at a time until it changes consistency and we see that. That's 3. Almost. 1 more, I think. There it is. Oh, look at that. Right, just like before, onto the worktop. I find it's funny, there's always little bits of flour at the bottom of the mixer that somehow manage to escape the mix. You may have noticed I didn't actually wash the food processor in between using it for the different pastries, because the amount of sugar that would have been left in there is so minimal, you don't need to worry about it. Now, going the other way, maybe from savoury to sweet, that's a bit more risky. If you're making a batch of doughs like I am today, then watch the order that you do it in. Right, good. What I find is the rounder you do the disc at the start, when you come to roll it out, the more likely it is to stay round. So if you want to get a good round shape, make a ball first, like that, and then press down that ball. Okay. Same as before, in some cling film. And what I was going to say before too, with seasonings, is that this is just the basic seasonings. If you wanted to mix up and do something a bit special, you could add things into here like curry powder or paprika, something like that. Or even in the sweet one, you could put cinnamon, things like that. If you're going to do an apple tart, maybe that would be really good. Did you realize that homemade pastry was that simple? 3 easy doughs to elevate your pies, your quiches, your tarts to the next level. Guys, I want to show you, if you keep watching, I'll show you just about a few tips on rolling out and blind baking. So stick around.